The Speaker recognizes Representative Irwin.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise today to oppose the House Bill 5314 funding package for our schools, and I do so after having been through a couple previous budgets where we have raided the school aid fund for over $1 billion a year. We've been doing that for a few years now, and that's really why this budget is so sparse. That's why our schools are so underfunded. That's why legislators are being pitted against each other, with some districts, some poorly funded districts getting funded a little more than other poorly funded districts. But all of our districts are being poorly funded. All of our districts are falling behind the other states and the other nations that our children have to compete against. And that's because there are other investments that are obviously more important to this legislature. Education obviously isn't the priority of this legislature. That's why we've raided $1 billion out of this fund. That's why going into a political season, we've got the two sides fighting over whether or not there's been more money put into education over the course of the last 3 or 4 years. And there's some really creative arguments. There's some creative accounting to try to figure out, why one side can justify a statement that more money is going into public education. But when we go back home to our districts, it's not that complicated. When you talk to your superintendents and your teachers and your parents and your students, it's a lot less complicated. They're not engaging in the fancy accounting to try to show why there's an increase in the classroom, because they know there isn't an increase in the classroom. They know that their schools are cutting. They know that their schools are sending out pink slips. They know that when parents walk into their elementary schools, they're being asked to bring reams of paper and pencils because our schools can't even afford the most basic supplies. That's because of the decisions being made here in this legislature. That's because of the low priority that we're putting on education. As a result, we're losing our best teachers. We're losing some of our best programs. There are districts here in the state of Michigan that have completely cut their art programs. There are districts in the state of Michigan that if you can't produce some money, you can't participate in athletics. And I think we all know that there are students here in Michigan for whom arts and athletics and these other enrichment programs are their window into school. That's how they get there. That's how they get excited about learning. As a result of all this, we know that we're going to lose business activity, we're going to lose investment, we're going to lose prosperity. Because we know that the most important investment we can make in the future prosperity of our state is a better public education system. The other states around this nation know it. They're investing more. They're using their economic recovery to put money into schools. What is Michigan doing? Michigan's falling further and further behind. And if you need one number, if you need to look at one number to show where we are on education, go back and look at the historical funding levels for per pupil funding. This budget, even with the paltry increases included in it, put our schools at the same level of funding that they were looking at 10 years ago. This budget sets our schools back a decade. Our schools are getting the same money in this budget that they got 10 years ago. So while other states race ahead, while other states invest in their future prosperity, Michigan is making other choices. We're making the wrong choices. And I urge my colleagues to vote no on this budget so we can come back to the drawing board and put a few more dollars in here, get a little bit closer to the other states and nations that we're trying to compete with, and do a little bit better job of educating our young people and building bright, vibrant communities that have a chance to succeed and win in the future economy. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.